Have you ever poured your heart and soul into your summer garden only to end up with tiny, disappointing pepper plants that barely produce a handful of vegetables? What if I told you that the fate of your entire pepper harvest is actually decided within the first 24 hours of putting them in the ground? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are talking about a game-changing topic: how the exact way you plant your peppers determines your final yield. I am going to share exclusive secrets straight from a professional who has run an agricultural supply store for over 20 years. He has seen every mistake in the book, and he knows exactly what the master farmers do differently. By the end of this video, you will have a foolproof blueprint that will shock you with how simple yet effective it is. We are going to debunk some massive gardening myths today, including the biggest lie about when to fertilize. Tell me in the comments right now, what is the biggest struggle you face when growing peppers? Let us get into the secrets. Before we dig into the dirt, let us understand why planting day is so incredibly vital. Peppers are native to warm climates, primarily in Central and South America. This means they are biologically programmed to crave heat, steady moisture, and absolutely zero stress during their early development. In the agricultural world, the phrase transplant shock is the enemy of a good harvest. When a seedling moves from a safe, comfortable nursery pot into the harsh environment of your garden, it experiences a massive disruption. If this transition is not handled perfectly, the plant will permanently stunt its own growth. It will focus on survival instead of producing those beautiful, crisp peppers you want. For 20 years, our expert has watched home gardeners buy the best, most expensive seedlings, only to ruin their potential on the very first day. The techniques we are about to cover are designed to completely eliminate transplant shock, tricking the plant into thinking it never left its perfect nursery environment. Let us break down the 10 crucial steps for planting day. So, let us dive right into the very first step, which is choosing the absolute perfect day to put your plants in the ground. You might think that planting as early as possible guarantees a bigger harvest, but that is a massive myth that costs gardeners dearly every single year. The 20-year veteran expert says this is the #1 mistake people make. Peppers are tropical plants, and they absolutely hate cold feet. Think about it like this. Imagine someone dragging you out of a warm, cozy bed and throwing you straight into an ice-cold swimming pool. You would freeze up, panic, and probably catch a cold, right? Well, your pepper seedlings do the exact same thing when you put them into soil that is too cold. They go into severe shock. Their roots stop growing, the leaves turn a sad shade of purple or yellow, and their growth is stunted for weeks. Even if the weather warms up later, that early trauma permanently reduces your final yield. Instead of looking at the calendar, you need to look at the nighttime temperatures. You want to wait until the nighttime temperatures are consistently above 55 degrees Fahrenheit. The soil itself needs to feel warm to the touch. By waiting just 1 or 2 extra weeks for the soil to properly heat up, your peppers will hit the ground running. They will instantly start expanding their roots and will quickly outgrow plants that were put in the ground too early. Patience on planting day is your absolute first secret weapon. Now that the weather is right, let us talk about picking the ultimate champions at the garden center. Buying seedlings is exactly like buying a used car. You cannot just look at the shiny exterior. You have to look under the hood. A huge myth is that you should buy the tallest plant with the most flowers on it. People think they are getting a head start, but our agricultural expert warns that this is a terrible idea. A tall, skinny plant with flowers in a tiny pot is highly stressed. It thinks it is dying, so it is rushing to reproduce. If you plant that, it will drop its flowers and struggle to establish roots. What you actually want is a short, stocky plant with a thick, strong stem. It should look like a little green bodybuilder. More importantly, you need to gently pop the plant out of its container and look at the roots. This is the engine of the plant. The roots should be bright white and fuzzy, filling the pot but not wrapping around themselves in tight circles. If the roots are brown, mushy, or completely choked around the bottom, put that plant back on the shelf immediately. Those brown roots are damaged goods. By selecting seedlings with thick stems, bright green leaves, and perfectly white roots, you are starting your garden with elite athletes instead of tired, stressed-out weaklings. This single choice dictates the energy your plant will have for the entire summer. Next up is a secret that surprises almost everyone, and it is all about planting depth. If you have ever grown tomatoes, you know that you can bury them super deep, and they will grow new roots all along the stem. Because of this, a common myth is that you should do the exact same thing with your pepper plants. Do not do it. This is a fatal error. Peppers do not behave like tomatoes. If you bury a pepper plant too deep, the main stem will rot under the wet soil, and your plant will slowly die a miserable death. Think of it like burying someone up to their neck in sand when the tide is coming in. They cannot breathe. You need to look closely at your pepper seedling and find the cotyledon leaves. These are the very first two tiny leaves that formed when the seed sprouted, located near the bottom of the stem. You must plant your pepper so the soil level is exactly the same as it was in the nursery pot, strictly below those first little leaves. Never bury the stem higher than the original soil line. By keeping the stem out of the wet dirt, you completely prevent stem rot and soil-borne fungal diseases from attacking the most vulnerable part of the plant. It might feel like you're not planting it deep enough, but trust the 20-year expert on this one. Proper depth ensures the roots get oxygen and the stem stays healthy, strong, and rot-free. Let us move on to the actual digging phase, where the size of your planting hole makes a monumental difference. Many weekend gardeners just stab a trowel into the dirt, make a tiny slit, cram the roots in, and cover it up. This creates a concrete prison for your new plant. The soil around the roots needs to be incredibly loose. The expert rule is to dig a hole that is at least twice as wide and twice as deep as the pot your seedling came in. Then you backfill that hole with loose, fluffy soil. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine trying to run a marathon while wearing boots that are 3 sizes too small. You would not get very far. When pepper roots hit hard, compacted soil, they simply stop growing. They give up. By creating a large, loose zone of soil around the newly planted seedling, you are giving those delicate white roots an easy, friction-free highway to expand. In the first few weeks, a pepper plant wants to send its roots deep and wide to secure water and nutrients for the long, hot summer. If you do this heavy lifting on planting day by preparing a generously sized hole with aerated soil, your plant will establish a massive root system in record time. A massive root system directly equals a massive harvest of heavy, juicy peppers later in the season. Here is a step that the 20-year veteran insists upon, but almost nobody does. It is the secret of the water pillar. Most people put the plant in the dry dirt, cover it up, and then sprinkle water on top. This is totally backwards and leads to severe root shock. The myth here is that top watering is enough to settle the plant. It is not. You need to use the mud soup method. Once you have dug your perfectly sized hole, fill it completely to the brim with water before you even touch the plant. Let that water drain away, then place your plant in the hole, fill the dirt back in halfway, and absolutely flood it with water again. You want it to look like a muddy, soupy mess. Why? Because dry soil contains hidden air pockets. If a delicate root touches a dry pocket of underground air, that root dies instantly. By creating this muddy soup during the planting process, the wet soil flows into every tiny crack and crevice, making perfect contact with every single root hair. It is like giving your plant a custom-fitted, hydrating blanket. Once the water drains down, you fill the rest of the hole with dry soil. This technique completely eliminates underground air pockets and guarantees that your seedling will not suffer from dehydration on its first day in the brutal sun. This water pillar technique is a non-negotiable step for giant yields. Now, we must discuss the most dangerous weapon in your garden, which is fertilizer. People love their plants, so they want to feed them immediately. A huge destructive myth is that you should throw a handful of strong granular fertilizer directly into the planting hole so the roots can touch it. If you do this, you will literally burn your plants alive. Our veteran expert says he sells hundreds of replacement plants every year to people who committed this exact crime. Synthetic fertilizers contain heavy salts. Putting raw fertilizer against baby roots is like forcing someone to eat a cup of pure salt when they are already thirsty. It sucks all the moisture right out of the plant. Instead, you must practice distance feeding. If you want to use granular fertilizer on planting day, you dig a ring about 6 inches away from the stem of the plant and lightly scratch it into the topsoil. This way, as you water the plant over the next few weeks, the nutrients slowly dissolve and gently move down toward the expanding roots. The plant can reach out and take the food when it is strong enough and ready. Never let chemical fertilizer touch the stem or the bare roots. By practicing patience and keeping the food at a safe distance, you prevent chemical root burn and ensure your plant gets a steady, safe diet as it grows. Let us talk about spacing, because overcrowding is the silent killer of the pepper patch. When you buy little seedlings, they look so small and innocent. It is incredibly tempting to plant them just 10 or 12 inches apart to maximize your garden space. The myth is that squeezing more plants into a small area equals more peppers. In reality, it equals a disaster. Peppers need a lot of personal space. The expert recommendation is to leave at least 18 to 24 inches between every single plant. Why is this so important? Let me give you a vivid example. Think about a crowded subway train in the middle of summer with no air conditioning. Everyone is sweating, breathing on each other, and if one person gets sick, everyone gets sick. Your pepper plants are the same way. As they grow into large bushes, they need proper airflow through their leaves to dry out the morning dew. If they are crammed together, The leaves stay wet all day. Wet leaves are a breeding ground for nasty fungal diseases and bacterial spots that will wipe out your entire crop in a week. Furthermore, crowded roots will aggressively fight each other for water and nutrients in the soil. By giving them generous spacing on planting day, you ensure excellent airflow, abundant sunshine on every leaf, and zero competition for food. The eighth secret involves putting a protective shield over your soil, and that means mulching. Many gardeners think mulch is just for making the garden look pretty and neat. That is a myth. Mulch is a highly functional tool that directly impacts your yield. The veteran advice is to apply a thick layer of mulch on the exact same day you plant. You can use straw, shredded leaves, or black plastic. Mulch serves two critical purposes for peppers. First, it completely blocks the sun from hitting the soil, which prevents thousands of weed seeds from sprouting and stealing your fertilizer. Second, and most importantly, it regulates soil moisture and temperature. During a brutal heat wave, bare soil bakes in the sun, baking the roots and evaporating all the water within hours. Mulch acts like a thick, insulated cooler. It traps the moisture in the ground and keeps the root zone comfortably cool during the day and warm during the night. Imagine walking barefoot on scorching hot asphalt versus walking on a cool, plush carpet. Your pepper roots want that cool carpet. By applying a 2-inch layer of mulch immediately after planting, you drastically reduce the amount of watering you have to do, and you create a stable, stress-free environment under the ground where the roots can continuously thrive. Now, we arrive at a step that most people delay until it is too late, which is providing structural support. A common myth is that you do not need to stake or cage your pepper plants until they get tall and heavy with fruit. Our 20-year agricultural expert strongly disagrees. You must install your support system on planting day. Peppers have surprisingly brittle branches. A strong gust of spring wind can snap a young plant right in half, ruining your season instantly. Even worse, if you wait until the plant is large to drive a wooden stake or a metal cage into the ground, you are going to blindly sever a massive amount of underground roots. Driving a stake through a mature root system is like performing reckless surgery on your plant. It causes massive shock and invites disease. By installing the stake right next to the seedling on the very first day, you know exactly where the roots are, and you cause zero damage. As the plant grows over the next few months, you simply tie it loosely to the existing stake. Think of it like putting the scaffolding up before you build the building. Early support prevents wind damage, keeps the leaves off the wet ground, and guarantees that when your plant is eventually loaded with heavy peppers, the branches will never break. Our final block brings us to the ultimate preemptive strike: early pest control. When you put a soft, juicy green seedling into the outdoor environment, it is like ringing the dinner bell for every aphid, thrip, and cutworm in the neighborhood. The myth here is that you should only spray or treat your plants when you actually see a bug invasion. If you wait until you see the bugs, the damage is already done, and the bugs have likely transmitted incurable viruses to your peppers. The veteran's secret is to apply a preventative defense on day one. You do not need harsh chemicals for this. On the evening of planting day, once the sun has gone down, you should apply a protective spray of organic neem oil or insecticidal soap to the top and bottom of the leaves. Additionally, Placing a small cardboard collar around the base of the stem prevents cutworms from chopping your plant down in the middle of the night. It is exactly like locking your doors at night before the burglars even show up. You want the bugs to take one bite of your plant, taste the neem oil, and decide to go eat your neighbor's weeds instead. By establishing a strong preventative perimeter on the very first day, your plant can focus 100% of its energy on growing rather than healing from insect bites. And there you have it, the ultimate blueprint for planting day. Who knew that so much of your future harvest was riding on the decisions you make within those first few hours? We have covered everything from waiting for the perfect soil temperature to using the muddy soup watering method, spacing them out for airflow, and establishing early pest defenses. The biggest takeaway here is that gardening is not just about luck or having a green thumb. It is about understanding the science of the plant and preventing shock before it ever happens. When you apply these 20-year expert secrets, you are practically guaranteeing a massive, explosive yield of peppers that will be the envy of your neighborhood. I hope these tips completely transform your vegetable garden this season. If you found this information valuable and learned something new today, please hit that subscribe button right now. Give the video a big thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 10 secrets surprised you the most? And which one are you going to try first this weekend? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. Thank you so much for watching, and happy planting.